At this point, we would like to welcome the two people who have put together an absolutely incredible conference for you. Hildy Gottlieb, who is the Executive Director and founder of Creating the Future. Is that your title? Yeah, we haven't called you that yet. No, Chief Boundary Pusher. That's right. And Gingerich, who is the Executive Director of PANO. And they will take us from here on the beginning of the journey that we will follow for the next couple of days. Thank you.
And I will just add that the conversation is going to be moderated by Jim Bendel of the Community Foundation of Westmoreland County. Please welcome them.
I'm delighted to be here, and the reason I'm delighted to be here, I have to thank Hildy, because we watched Susan Aceto, who I work with at the Community Foundation of Westmoreland County. We saw this movie on creating the future as to what we should be doing going forward, and I really got excited about that because it looks like we can do some changes. Okay, now stay with me, because I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, Jim, you're 75 and a half. The average lifespan of males in the United States is about 77. For many of you in the room, you might have 20 or 30 years. I only have 2 years left. So everybody in the room, we really got to pay attention to what we're doing to get to where we should be. And as I just think for a minute, and my prelude to introducing these two folks is this. I would ask everybody in the room to just set aside, if you can, all that stuff that's been in our heads about the silo that we have that is our program, our corporation. Let's try to think about that concept that hit me about 1.5 years ago when Mike Coomer came to a program in Greensburg, talked about community development organizations, community business organizations, community benefit organizations. We are all part of that community. If we think that way, it changes how we view the future. So as we proceed and we hear these two folks answering questions, let's be thinking just a little bit differently. So that, as an opener, I have to turn to these two ladies to my left and ask the question, why are we here? Hildy, do you want to start that way?
No, I'm going to let Ann start.
Okay, so we're going to start about talking about why we are here by talking about what is different about this conference for you. And what is different about this conference for you are the outcomes that we're looking for. So a lot of times when I go to a conference, I will look for tools and resources that I can use when I get home. And usually as I'm leaving, I'm in a panic because there's no way that I will ever be able to implement anything that I learned because I'm too busy doing the work. This conference, the outcomes are all about relationships. PANO's tagline during our transition, we're in transition, is all about building trust, connections, and relationships. And our work, all of our work, it doesn't matter if you're working for government, if we're working for nonprofit, if we're working for-profit companies, we're all about relationships. And so this conference is about building relationships, and the way we build relationships is by building on the strengths that every person in the room brings to the table. So you're going to hear this thing called what we are calling Stone Soup throughout the conference and how that's worked for us here. You're going to hear a lot about how to build on strengths of the people in the room, and you're going to hear a lot about the importance of building shared vision, because it's by building relationships around shared vision that we together can truly create something different and new.
Hildy, do you want to build up on that?
Just try and stop me. I just have to say how excited I am to be here. We have been talking about a lot of this stuff for a really long time among many of us, and to actually be sitting in the room here, I just have to tell you, I've just been sort of giggling most of the day. So hopefully by the end of even just this afternoon, you guys will be giggling along with us. That would be interesting. One of the things that you're going to find that's a little bit different is that we have really very, very intentionally built the sessions that you're going to be attending, including the plenaries. But absolutely the breakout sessions. We know that when we attend conferences that people are coming from different levels of experience in their own lives, in their own organizations, in their own communities, in their own businesses. We all come from sort of different lenses, and frequently we're just sort of, roam from breakout to breakout because we just saw, well, this one, we should have something on this, or we should have something on that. What we've realized is that there's some people in the room who really are in a place where we need tools. If only we had better fundraising tools, if only we had better board tools, and you will find sessions specifically with you in mind for that. There are other people in the room who come from a place of, I am ready to dive into whatever is next. And that thing that Anne was talking about building great relationships and great outcomes, that sounds like me. And we've built sessions for that as well. There's folks who are thinking, that sounds interesting. I might like to try it, but I'm not so sure I want to dive in the deep end yet. And we've built sessions for that as well. We also know, and I could probably ask you to raise hands, I won't, that there's a level of frustration that many of us feel that we have been trying so hard for so long. Many of us feel like we've tried and tried and tried. No matter what we try, we're not sustainable. No matter what we try, we've tried for 10 years, 20 years to build a solid board, and we've just hit wall after wall. Sometimes the frustration is around community change. We're working so hard, we sense that we should be able to accomplish more. There's going to be sessions that talk about that as well. So we're really looking at sessions that speak to you where you're at. One of the other things that you'll see, and Gail and Afoma mentioned this in their introduction, we are not calling folks vendors and sponsors and exhibitors. We're talking about community partners. And that counts all of you guys as well. Because we're all in this together. And so one of the things that Gail and Afoma mentioned is you're going to see those folks in the sessions with you. We're not expecting everybody to just, sit at your table and wait and everybody will come back out. No, we all want to learn together. We all want to build relationships together. And we've actually even crafted some sessions specifically with a cross-sectoral lens. Because again, like these guys said earlier, if we're going to start talking about breaking down barriers, let's just do that. So that's a little bit more about what you're going to find over the next couple of days, is that we've done our very, very best to intentionally build sessions that speak to you where you're at and what you're experiencing. Did you want to talk about the evaluation part of that, the stuff that they're going to see on their tables?
But before we talk about that, I also just wanted to say that we are co-creating this conference with you. So you are going to be part of making the sessions a success. One of the things we really encourage you to do, I really encourage you to do, is stop by the Creating the Future table in the back. This is the question generator over here, and she has generated a ton of questions to help get conversations started. So pick up a question. It can help you in the conversations that you will be having in every conversation that you have. In addition to that, at the end of every session, we're going to be asking for reflections from you and what it is that you think you're going to take away from. It's not the traditional, did we meet the learning objectives? Who cares? What is it that you're going to be taking with you when you go home and that you'll be implementing from the session that you're in?
Yeah, it was interesting as we started to talk about the evaluations that you classically get at the end of a session, that speakers actually, I don't know if you guys know this, speakers actually call those sheets, rate the speaker on a 1 to 10, they actually call those smile sheets. That's how much credence is put to them, and they're ranking the speaker usually based on should we ask that speaker back. What we want to know, and what you'll find in every session, is an evaluation that asks questions about, are we meeting the objectives of, do you feel that this built on your strengths? Do you feel that this session helped you build relationships? Do you think that this session helped you bring out a shared vision? So we're really looking at everything that we can, changing it up a little bit. And one thing I'll share with you guys is none of this, even though we're talking about Stone Soup, and I'll tell the story. I'm going to guess that there's some people who've not heard the story of Stone Soup. I find every once in a while there are, so you're going to hear us talk about it a lot. I will tell it very, very quickly. It is an old tale, an old fable about a guy who comes into a village and he's got nothing to eat, and he goes knocking from door to door asking folks for something to eat, and everybody says, I'm sorry, we're very poor, we can't afford barely to feed our own family, we don't have anything for you. And so finally he gets this idea, and he says, if you guys will bring me a pot and a stone, I will make a pot of soup from this stone. I said, well, that sounds interesting. And everybody started to come out, and they lit the fire, and they started to boil the water, and they put the stone in the pot. And he says, you know what? All I need for this, I could use an onion. And somebody ran home and got an onion. He says, you know, I could also use a carrot. Somebody ran home and got a carrot. And they added, and they added, and they added, and by the end, they had this fabulous broth. He took the stone out, and he said, and now you've got stone soup. And what we're really talking about is everybody putting in what they have. Everybody sharing what they have, and that's really going to be what you're going to sense out of this conference as well today.
Hildy, when you talk about the conference and what words we're going to hear, when I was in the Navy for a while, and if somebody talks about a ship on the ocean and call it a boat, that kind of gets me a little bit nervous. What are some of the words that you don't want us to use during these 2 days? Turn that around.
Can I just do the words I do want to hear?
Exactly. That's what I wanted to hear you say. What are the words that we should be using? Because that lead into the can't is those. That's what we don't want to be talking about.
We talk a lot about the reasons we can't do things, instead of asking how can we. We talk a lot about, well, who's going to pay for it, instead of saying, what do we all have together that can make this work? How can we make it work? And you'll see in your bag of tricks there, in addition to instructions on how to tweet and all of those good things, you'll also see a sheet that compares the questions that we frequently ask that stop us and questions that can move us forward. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about bad words. I'm just going to talk about good words.
I want to add to that, may I? So, well, I'm going to. So, just so you know, we are not talking about failure here. We want to talk about what we want to learn. So we'll probably screw up. I mean, just so you know, there's going to be things that don't go perfectly here. We're okay with that up here because we know that we will learn something from everything that occurs. So we're here to learn.
Yeah, it's been really fascinating. Creating the Future is a living laboratory, a learning laboratory. And it is all about how we actually accomplish the change that we're about, that all of our organizations are about. And when I say all our organizations, I mean businesses, I mean governments. We all care about creating the future of our communities, and creating the future is a living laboratory around that. And one of the things that we've realized is by being a learning lab, it's a no-fail zone, because nobody fails at learning. So you just learn what works better, you learn what doesn't work so well. And so what we're going to be doing over the next couple of days is we're all going to be learning. And when you go back to your real lives, keep learning, and we're not failing. And so that's the attitude that we have taken with the conference. If there's things that you notice that could be better, could work better, we want to know that stuff. If something is not working, we want to know that stuff, because it's just going to be one more thing that we're learning.
And maybe what we can do, if we are going to trust each other, is that why don't we all take the risk, if somebody does start to talk negative, maybe we raise our hand and try to drift away from that and make it positive. I know even when I was trying to think as I drove down here, I play tennis, and often when somebody says, how well do you do playing tennis, I'll say, well, I don't have a good backhand. But what you forget is that, gee, maybe I have a good serve and maybe I hit a good forehand. Emphasize your strengths. So that whole comment about being positive, let's not get mired in the mud, let's talk about what we can do. That's fabulous. So what else do you want to say? What else do you want to tell us? Where do you want us to be in when this is all over?
This time I'm going to let Hildy go first.
Notice how Anne's staying in control.
I'm good at that.
You've got two control freaks up here. No, you talk. No, you talk now. One of the things that's been really exciting, I have to say, in terms of okay, we've been in learning mode. One of the things that's been really exciting for us is to learn what it really means to be in partnership. I'll let you guys raise your hands right now. How many of you guys have had great collaborations? How many of you have had collaborations that you don't even want to get out of bed in the morning? Yeah. And what's been fabulous is for us to learn by doing it what makes an amazing partnership. We arrived, Dimitri and I arrived from Arizona on Wednesday night. Thursday morning, we were in the PANO office, and it was so seamless. They basically, we walked in, they said, good, we can start our staff meeting, and we went into a 4-hour staff meeting of going down the checklist of who needed to do what. They told us they had assigned us a whole bunch of things, and that was pretty much the control freak part. The other control freak said, no, I'm not doing that. But what was amazing is if somebody had walked into that room, you never would have known who was PANO, who was creating the future. Jody Kretzman, who is John McKnight's partner in the Asset-Based Community Development Institute out of Northwestern University. Jody loves to tell the story about the soup kitchen, where you cannot tell walking in there who are the volunteers, who are the staff, and who are the supposed clients to be served. That everybody is just working together. And it really has felt like that over the past several months of putting this together. So that's just one really joyful learning of what does it look like when it's really working. What it looks like is you can't tell that there's different organizations, that a real partnership looks like one entity.
So next year, we're hoping to have 20 partners at the table for this conference. Seriously, not joking. We really want this to be our conference, meaning the collective we conference. So if you're sitting there saying, we want to be part of that, let me know. I have 4 organizations who have said to me they want to be conference partners next year. So we welcome that. This year is a demonstration project of where we see PANO and the conference here going. It's not going to be PANO's conference. It's going to be our conference together.
Yeah, it has been really, really interesting, that word partner. When somebody says, I want to partner with you for next year's conference, we're usually thinking, okay, they want to give us money. In this, especially in the traditional nonprofit sector, if we are looking at partners between an organization and somebody that has money, we're really talking about silent financial partnership, where we'll take your money, we hope you're not going to tell us what to do. And what we're talking about are real partners. There's been not just Creating the Future and the Community Foundation in Westmoreland, but Milestone Bank has been part of co-creating this with us. Susquehanna Bank has been part of co-creating, sitting at the table. Jody from Highmark, we've been sitting at the table together planning this event, creating it from the beginning. So real partnership has been probably one of the most exciting things.
I want to add more about the stone soup, just because I want to talk about what that means. So I think she gave us the story of the stone soup, but what does that look like in this particular demonstration project? So here are some examples. I want to start with the PANO board, who has been extremely supportive all the way through this. It's been extremely fun. I'll give you examples tomorrow about the PANO board as well. But in this case, we asked the PANO board if they'd be willing to give a gift to conference participants, and they said yes. And what they chose to do is all pitch in to purchase friend-raising books written by yours truly over here. But the reason why we chose the friend-raising book, which you will find out on the table for those of you who did not get, those of you who are not one of the 100 conference participants who did not get it, the first registered, the book is for sale. It's a joint fundraising effort for the 2 organizations. But we chose this book because it gives 101,000 examples of how to build community, how to build relationship, how to build friends. It's exactly what we're doing as we move forward in this conference and as a community, as we are looking to build friends, people who think like us, to join the we. So what happened? Well, some board members were able to purchase more than others. Some board members weren't able to contribute to that particular thing, and it was okay, because it's who can contribute what to the stone soup. Another example, Nat Treppett, who happens to be, you can wave your hand back there, Sam. He happens to be the hosting service for PANO, and they do a ton of different things for us. They host our server, they provide a lot of IT support, but Sam and I sat down a couple weeks, maybe a month ago, and I started talking about the concept of joining the we. And Sam got so excited. He left the office, was driving around to other meetings, and called me and said, hey, I want to do more than just pay for happy hour, which they are, by the way. He is a former Marine. He likes to drink. It's good. But so they're doing that. But he said, I want to do more than that. I want to provide some type of IT support, maybe for organizations that are coming and have collaborative IT solutions. And he's got some great stories he'll share with you throughout the day. But that conversation led into not only will they supply IT support for people just here at the conference, they are going to provide IT support for, are you ready? The we, whatever comes out of this conference and conversations here. So if you think about some collaborative IT solutions that might help your community move forward, NetTrepid is going to be a partner for us moving forward, which I think is really exciting.
And that sort of leads into the final session tomorrow. So before happy hour tomorrow, the final session. Again, very frequently at conferences, it's a keynote that gets you jazzed, so you'll go home excited and motivated, which is all very well and good, except that we hit our desks when we get home, and the pile of emails that we haven't answered because we've been away for 2 days, and that jazzed and motivated goes away frequently by the time you're on the cell phone out of the parking lot. What we're going to be talking about at the end of the day tomorrow is how we take what we have experienced here, so not just learned but experienced, how do we take that back in a way that's meaningful to our organizations and to our communities? And having Sam and NetTrepid partner with PANO for the what's next, which includes things like not only what's next for you and how do you bring it back and how do you not get lost in the day-to-day, but what support do you need for that? And that's a big part of what PANO's all about. So it's we're excited to get started, to stop talking about it and let's get doing it. Do you have any more questions, Mr. Bendel?
No, ma'am. Just as you told me. Hildy and Ann, thanks for the leadership. We're going to move on to the end of this portion of the program, and we are going to say, let's get going on creating the future.